Happy Monday, everybody. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike, but you may notice that this lady right here, she's not Mike Irwin. It's Alyssa and Courtney here with you. Mike is on vacation this week, so we are giving him a much-needed break from the show, but we didn't want to deprive you of not having your questions answered. So, Alyssa, we've done this once before.
We have, and we're going to try to be our best Mike Irwin as possible.
Absolutely. Although we won't rant for like 15 minutes on NIL.
Promise, so no rants.
No rants today, but a lot of good questions. So let's jump right into them. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about all of these, Alyssa. Hot Dogger asks, can you explain how teams know who is in the portal? Does the school send out a list with the player's name to the NCAA or a website? Sounds like a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, digital these days, right? No one really has paperwork anymore. It's all digital. And the thing with the portal is every coach has it. Every assistant coach, head coach has access to the portal, support staff. So that's why when athletes are like, yeah, they contacted me about 20 seconds after I entered, they'll get a notification saying there's a new player and who it is. And sometimes they might suspect some players are going to be hitting the portal that day, so they're kind of already on top of it. And that's how they know. And then obviously they get the ball rolling with reaching out. And once that player hits the portal, they can reach out and start that recruiting process when the window is open. Now, I've talked to some coaches at Arkansas, and the way it's explained and how it works detailed-wise was like this. A coach has these interviews and meetings and all that kind of things with these players. And the minute that a player says they want to transfer, this coach told me I stopped the conversation there. And most coaches do. We kind of stop the conversation there and okay, if that's what you want to do, I'm going to send you down to the compliance office. Because it's the compliance office that deals with then the exit interview. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Why are you deciding to leave? Okay, let's get your paperwork. Let's get you're going to need, your I say report cards, but your
transcripts.
Your transcripts, thank you. Your transcripts, all that stuff that schools are going to need. The compliance office collects all that, and it's the compliance office that puts your name into the portal. So athletes aren't over there logging in, creating. It's not like a dating website where you create your own profile and then you click, go live. It's the compliance office that does all that. So yes, it seems kind of messy and a lot of paperwork, but they don't do paperwork anymore. It's all digital. And so, again, it's out of the coach's hands the minute an athlete says, I want to transfer.
Yeah, and to add to this, because I have actually seen the portal. Whoa, crazy. And so to give people a little insight, the way it's set up is it's called a portal because it is a physical online portal. That, like you said, compliance helps athletes build their profiles, so to speak. They help them answer all these questions, and then when they are ready to go live, that name gets added into the portal. And so it's kind of interesting because it shows up, there's just like a list of names. It really is kind of messy, but you can search by school, conference, player name, position, all of those things, exactly. So, and you go up in the search bar and you can search. The way I've seen it, and this could just be the way the certain coach that I've seen it from has his set up, but it goes in by the most recent. So the most recent name added, that's kind of how on the homepage, that's how it was set up, or looks like it was set up to me. It's also very interesting because if you click on the player's name, has all of these questions about the athlete. And one of the most interesting ones that I think is more intriguing in this day and age is, do you want to be contacted by other schools? And so some people go into the portal knowing where they want to go, which is kind of just an interesting thing, or knowing that they don't want to be reached out to at that current moment. It's just very interesting. That question that gets asked to players.
Do you want to be contacted?
Do you want to be contacted? Because I would think you would say yes. If you're going in the portal, why would you not want to be contacted?
You know what they say about assuming. So that is very interesting.
Absolutely.
But
So
that's how that works.
That's a little tidbit there. I don't know.
Dogger.
Yeah, hot dogger. That's a little tidbit for you guys there. I don't know how many people know that, but again, it's kind of just interesting when I was looking at it. WV Hog fan says, Coach Cal is definitely benefiting from the large NIL donations. Are the same people donating similar money to the football program?
Yeah, so, right now NIL donations and the number specifically are not public. What's really out there is what someone has said that they've donated or what they're telling. Some people are being told and then it's being reported. But those numbers aren't public. I can't go over to Arkansas Edge and be like, tell me everybody who's given you money. That's not how it works right now. So those numbers aren't public. Cal is benefiting from a large NIL budget, and a big thing for him was part of his agreement with Arkansas is that Arkansas Edge will be doing the fundraising for him, getting that money, help build that NIL budget for him, where I feel like there were interviews with Kentucky, he was having to kind of do a lot of it himself and trying to figure out, like, where is this NIL money coming from? You got to do it. And you still, I mean, that's part of your job, just like recruiting is. Like, you're still kind of doing it, but your real focus is coaching and recruiting and building a staff and getting guys in here. We will take care of the NIL stuff. I think this was interesting, and I saw you retweeted this clip too, and I had known that this was coming because I talked to my husband who works over at Hugs Plus, but they did a sit-down interview with John Tyson, and when Calipari was hired, there was all this, John Tyson gave all this NIL money, and now they have this big NIL budget. And John Tyson said, I did not give any money. I did not write them a big NIL check. I gave some money to the Razorback Foundation that helps supplement the coaches' salaries and things like that, all of those extra things that come with the additions to the coaches' salaries. He goes, they need NIL money. Everyone out there needs to know that we need NIL money. That's like a direct quote from John Tyson. So it's interesting, everyone thought, oh, he just threw a whole bunch of money. And then I think Warren Stevens' name got thrown in there, and Jerry Jones's name got thrown in there, and the Waltons got thrown in there. And I quite frankly don't know the last time the Waltons gave some money to the University of Arkansas. Yeah. But, all of these names got thrown out there, and then you have John Tyson in an interview just say, like, I did not cut a big check. Please give to the NIL and give to Arkansas. Again, that's what he said. I think it's interesting. He also says he gives a lot of money to the sports no one thinks about, like golf, obviously, and track. So that's what he does. As for football, I'm sure that they're getting some money. I think the biggest thing is it's safe to say that you're never going to have enough money. You're never going to have too much NIL money to where you're going to say, oh, don't worry about donating. So the University of Arkansas and Arkansas Edge will always need money to continue to compete in this world of the NIL that we live in. So I think the biggest misconception maybe with this question is basketball's comfortable, they're good. What about football? And I think the answer is I don't think any sport is good right now. So, I mean, they always are going to need more, want more. So,
well, absolutely.
That's where we are.
There can never be enough money. The more money you have to play with, the more successful you're going to be in that recruiting game.
Right.
But the money's coming from somewhere. The question I had when I saw that clip from John Tyson was, okay, you didn't cut a big NIL check, but they're getting the money from somewhere because you don't get a player like John L. Davis, the number one player in the portal, without having some money to throw at him. Because if you're in those conversations and what you're hearing, I mean, he has evaluation, and people were saying possibly $1 million.
Yeah.
And so that money is coming from somewhere.
No, it is coming from somewhere.
My question is where? If it wasn't, because initially my brain went, okay, Tyson, or like you said, Jerry Jones, right? We saw that rumor going around that he was donating. Where is it? And I wish we had the answer to that.
Yeah.
That is something I get so annoyed about.
And we're just not going to, and I know that there have been meetings, there have been, they're not banquets, but there have been, NIL meetings with big donors to talk about what they're going to need. But again, we're not going to know those numbers. And so it's really, really hard because, these large NIL donations, I don't necessarily know if they're large NIL donations or if they're just NIL donations that are equaling large amounts of money.
Yeah.
If that makes more sense.
It does make more sense. And also, it'd be nice to know as well. I know Arkansas probably won't give us these numbers, but obviously the hiring of Coach Cal was huge for Arkansas's brand. And you saw people tweeting out on social media, and Mike and I have talked about this on the show, hey, now I'm going to sign up for Arkansas Edge. Now I'm going to take my money, please. Right? I want to sign up. So are they pooling a lot of money because people are signing up for Edge and people aren't realizing that Arkansas, people are actually giving money now?
And that's a big thing too, is like I guarantee you they've seen an increase in donations and they've seen an increase in interest and all of those kinds of things because of how big of a hire John Calipari was. So I think they both kind of go hand in hand. It's just, again, that misconception of basketball's good. They're good. Well, John Tyson came out and said, Arkansas Edge needs some NIL money. Don't think that they're good because they're not.
Hunter Yurachek also said that in the press conference of introducing Coach Cal. So I know a lot of people were like, oh, sure, but maybe with John Tyson saying it as well, people will go, oh, oh, maybe they actually do need money still. Marty Bird's Proxy asks, I, like most Hog fans, I'm sure, am a huge Peyton Holt fan. Yeah, we are too. He seems like the type of athlete old Hugo Bezdek was talking about when he first mentioned his wild band of Razorback Hogs.
Yeah.
What are his professional prospects after his career here at the U of A? He's certainly a guy I'm giving a shot if I was a big league general manager.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think he's definitely, Peyton Holt is such a salt to the earth kind of kid. And you love sitting down and talking to him. And Jacob and I went over there to do an interview with him and Jared Sprague-Lott. And it was so much fun to sit down and, you know, it's a conversation. You know, with Peyton Holt, it wasn't an interview. We were having a conversation. And this is a kid who's gone through a lot, who decided to go to a school out of college or out of high school. That coach passed away, and there was a new head coach who cut Peyton in the fall along with some of his other teammates. So he goes the JUCO route, then ends up back at Arkansas, and he's from Greenwood. So everyone loves a success story, right? And I don't know what's down in the water, but again, it's something we're looking into too. It would just to shine light on that community and all the great athletes who have come out of there. But you root for him, you root for a guy like that, and you love sitting down and talking to him, and then you realize, like even last year when he had to step in for Peyton Stovall getting hurt, like this is going to be an issue in a good way, because where are you going to put Peyton Holt in the lineup? And so then when he had to step in for Peyton Stovall at the beginning of the year, he did so well. Once Peyton kind of came back during that McNeese series, we didn't see Peyton Holt much in the lineup. And I went back and I looked at exactly when he started to get his production up again. And he has played or started 15 of the last 17 games. So there was a little bit of a break there, but then you get to that Alabama series and he is in the starting lineup continuously there. And I think he's leading the team, if not back and forth with Vahiva Aloy in batting average right now at the top of the lineup. And so it's definitely one of those things where it's like DVH just knew I got to put him out there. You know, I got to put Peyton Holt in the lineup at some point, some way. He just really personifies, I think, what Dave loves in a baseball team. The unselfishness, the willingness to do anything, the attitude, his teammates love him. Like, I think Dave would love a million Peyton Holts on that team to play every position. I really do.
I think everybody would.
Yes,
everybody
that's what
would.
You want. And so you love him and his story. The flip side of that question is he's not a top 300 prospect in the MLB draft, right? So, you know, it'd be something to where he's got a COVID year if he wants it. But he's 23 years old. And so, you know, if he wants to play one more year, he can, but he's 23 years old. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. You know, in MLB teams, the way that those work, you know, they understand where their leverage is. And so if he does sign post-draft with a team, it's not going to be for very much. And I don't know. I don't know what a professional baseball career looks like for Peyton Holt. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it'd be great to have a guy, you know, go out and try out and see what happens. I feel like that's like Peyton Holt's story anyways.
Yeah.
Just go out, open tryout, you know, and see what happens. But, you know, it's been really fun watching it.
It was fun talking to those MLB scouts who were there last week for the midweek series against Missouri State. And they were kind of telling me who they were there seeing. And Peyton Holt, you know, he was doing well, and I kind of said, I was like, that's a guy you should watch out for. And they were like, who? What's his name? What's that? And they were writing it down. I was like, yeah, Peyton Holt. That's a guy you should watch out for.
Yeah,
so.
And you would think they would know that name after, you know, all of the publicity he got with the Florida play and throwing the guy out, right? The juke and the Florida play in the outfield. You'd think Peyton Holt would be a name at the forefront just because you're on social media and you saw, like, who is that kid, right? And then you come here and he is just, you know, He's not very big. There goes my pen. He's not very big, and so it's a little misleading. And then you see him play, and you're like, that guy could just play baseball. So
yeah, his baseball IQ is very very high. You can't start at 5 different positions and not have a very high baseball IQ.
Yeah.
And being that he is 23, he has that leadership as well.
Yeah.
I think his voice is very well heard on that team. And so I think that's something else that you get from him as well, which would benefit if he does decide to take that coach.
We'll see. I did reach out to Oliver Grigg, who is the SID, the Sports Information Director for baseball. He says he does plan to go through senior day events this upcoming weekend. So.
Oh, well, that makes me kind of sad. Doesn't mean he can't come back.
He can always come back, but he says he does plan to, so we'll see.
Okay, J-Hog, would like to hear your thoughts on why Arkansas seems to struggle signing defensive tackles in both the high school ranks and the portal.
Yeah, so I get where this question is coming from. I think he's talking in the now. And if you want to talk in the now, I'll kind of jump straight to, obviously, they're a hot commodity. And so I reached out to our football recruiting guy, Otis Kirk, who is in contact with all of it. And so he sees exactly who are they contacting, who are they bringing in, who are they not getting, who are they getting. And he was telling me, look, you're going to sign a good one. They did. They signed Danny Salai out of BYU.
Oh, yeah.
They just did that today. That's a really good defensive tackle that they're getting out of the portal and BYU today. But they're also great defensive tackles are just a hot commodity right now. It's competitive to get them. Everyone wants them. They're like offensive linemen. They hit the portal. And right now in the NIL world, you're going to have to pay some big bucks to get these defensive tackles and these offensive linemen and defensive linemen in. So everybody wants them. And it's tough. But I think if you were to look back, there have been so many successful defensive linemen at Arkansas. So it's not like they have historically struggled in that realm. It's just maybe right now it looks that way with NIL because, back then you didn't have to buy these players out of the portal. And so when you look back, I just wanted to do some research. Mm-hmm. These guys on the defensive line who are in the NFL right now, John Ridgeway, Jonathan Marshall, or who were in the NFL, Sosa Agim, Armon Watts, Jeremiah Ledbetter, Dietrich Wise, Trey Flowers, Darius Philon, Chris Smith. Since I've been here in 2013, those are all the guys who have been drafted. Guys who could be picked up in this next NFL draft, you have Cam Ball, Landon Jackson, Anton Jukaj, and Eric Gregory. You also have guys like Nico Davile who could enter the draft if they wanted to. So they've got really talented guys already on campus. So you also have to look at who do we have versus who do we need. So just because they're not bringing in a good defensive tackle out of the portal doesn't mean they don't already have one on campus.
Absolutely. And I like what you said there. It kind of goes back into our conversation about NIL and goes back to who asked it about does football have the same kind of NIL money? I mean, you kind of look at it right there. There's a reason why you have Wright's Barbecue creating a whole thing for those guys in the trenches, the big pig fund. Yeah. That's because those guys need money. They are such in high demand. And like you said, there's a small amount of them in the portal, so they go quick. This isn't just an Arkansas problem. And Mike and Otis has even said it on his Arkansas football recruiting report. This isn't just an Arkansas problem. This is everywhere. Everybody wants those guys. And so you're really competing against everybody else. So this is why it goes back to you still need NIL funds for football if you want to get those guys and beat people out in that competition.
It's so interesting since we're on the topic that, when people think about football and NIL, you're looking at, your pretty positions, your quarterbacks, your wide, I'm serious, your wide receivers, your running backs, even your DBs who like to flash back there. Those are the guys who are fun to sell, easy, they're the first things that pop up. But quite frankly, I think you ask any football coach in the SEC specifically, you win in the trenches with the O-line and the D-line. So, get those boys their money.
Get those boys their, exactly.
Why are we over here paying the QB? I mean, I get it. The QB got a lot of money. That's why the QB is always buying his O-linemen Segways and stuff in the NIL. They get gifts. Yes. Tyreek Hill over here giving everybody, bikes and stuff.
Yeah, there was which QB was it? They gave them all Xboxes.
Yeah, that might have been Patrick Mahomes. All that to say, there is quality in the trenches. You got to pay those boys.
Absolutely. Pig's feet. Who determines hit/errors in SEC baseball games? Hagen Smith was charged with a hit that led to an earned run on a ball that hit Sprague-Lott right in the glove, and he dropped. Is there any way to challenge the rule? This is a great question.
Right. So I laughed twice. I laughed when who determines hit errors in SEC baseball. I giggled a little bit because I know the answer, and I don't think it's what he expects the answer to be. Then I giggled again. Is there any way to change the ruling? This is the SEC, my man. I mean, I'm since you can't change nothing. You can't change anything. You might get a sorry, but ain't nothing going to change. So the answer.
Sorry, I'm laughing because I know both of the answers, but I'm laughing.
So the answer is the SID does.
Yeah.
So the home SID, who is the sports information director.
We love you,
Oliver is Arkansas. Each team has one for baseball and all their sports. They determine the hit or the error. in the press box at the time. And look, they're not up there trying to pad the stats one way or the other. It is very much a game of baseball, and unfortunately, with the college level, if you want to say unfortunately, there is that discretion, there of like, okay, that was a hit or that was an error. I texted Oliver because I knew the answer, but I just wanted to double check and make sure. And he was like, yes. And then he goes, I just want to remind people that third base is called the hot corner for a reason. I mean,
of course he did.
Right? So, you bounce that ball off. That's it was honestly probably a better defensive play for Jared Spraglott than it was, an error for Jared Spraglott, to be able to stop that ball in this specific instance. So no one's trying to pad it. No one's trying to, have a home field advantage with an SID, but they're the ones who make those decisions up in the booth. And they make the announcement. So a play will happen, and they'll say, that's a hit, or that was an error on 6. They'll let you kind of know what's happening up in the booth when you're up there in the press box. I did learn this today, though.
Okay.
That's interesting. College baseball is different than the MLB because the MLB has a neutral party to review all scoring decisions. At the college level, it's your home SIDs. It's the same with baseball or with basketball and with football.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So it is all the home SIDs.
Wow, that's
who
awesome.
make those determinations as opposed to Major League Baseball, who reviews all those things.
That's kind of an interesting thing about neutral site.
Like
I mean, you could go back and look at those.
I think the SEC has their own crews and the NCAA has their own crews during those postseasons or whatever, but regular season.
That's Oliver. So don't get mad at him, guys.
It's
if you
not.
Look at the stats, don't get mad at him. And it is hard, I will say, because we've seen some stuff done on like stat broadcasts, and I go, wait a second, why is that? And I've even said to Evan before, I'm like, wait a second, that was an error? Wait, well, let's go back and look. And then they'll go back and sometimes change things. So sometimes
in the moment, very quickly. They will not go back innings and be like, oh, I'm going to change that.
No, but very quickly, because sometimes it'll be credited and I'll go, wait a second, why was that? And then I'll
change,
notice that it's very quickly changed. So sometimes it's
the SIDs might be like, that was a hit, and people will be like, okay, it was an error.
Okay, it was an error. That makes me laugh just thinking. It is human error as well. You can't go and hate on people for making a mistake once or twice. It is
human error.
Razorback Hobbs, here we go again. Let's all freak out because we lost to the number 8 team in the country on the road, which is first in the SEC in hitting, by the way. 7 straight seasons of 40 wins for Arkansas, but we need coaching changes. There are people on Twitter tagging Dave Van Horn and Nate Thompson saying, it's time to go. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty crazy. He goes on to be like, we're going to be a top 8 national seed. We have a good chance to go to Omaha. Isn't that all you can ask for? Here's the deal. You tag Dave Van Horn and Nate Thompson in a tweet, they ain't going to see it. So you're wasting your breath. If it makes you feel better, I get it. But fans overact all the time. Mm-hmm. I was sitting at home watching Arkansas baseball and watching my alma mater play baseball, and there was a lot of overreacting in what the heck? There was a lot of overreacting from me. I'm a fan sometimes, and I get it. So I understand where these people are coming from, but I think you have to look at this Arkansas offense, and it's bringing a lot of frustration out of people right now, and it's kind of going from weekend to weekend. But we've said it, and we're going to continue to say it, that if you are frustrated, just imagine how frustrated these coaches and these players and everyone in that locker room feels right now. Like, how do you think Kendall Diggs feels every time he walks up to the plate knowing he's in a slump and he wants to break the slump, and he has the ability to hit, and right now it just isn't clicking. I think anyone who has ever played the game, I have gone through those slumps. I'm sure Evan has gone through those slumps. Anyone who's ever played the game has gone through a slump, and you just got to get out of it. So they're very, very aware of those struggles. And so, the good thing is, if I can put any kind of perspective on it for the way that I feel, last year for Arkansas baseball, they ran out of pitching. And we knew it, that pitching staff was a commendable where they got with how injured and beat up they were as a pitching staff. They are nowhere near that same situation leading into the final 2 weekends of the SEC, into the SEC tournament and the postseason right now with their pitching staff. Hitting can turn around. You can turn around your hitting. You can get back to getting hot again. That's what happens. And a lot of times it's those teams who get hot at the plate at the end who win. Ask Ole Miss a couple years ago how that went for them. right? But you can't turn pitching around that quickly as like you can with hitting. So, slow your roll a little bit. I know that it's frustrating, but it's one of those things where it's just baseball, and it's going to ebb and flow, and it's going to get better. Now, Dave did say, look, we left 11 runners on base. Like, you can't really be doing that. And I've done some looking, and we talked about this before we started taping, that Arkansas right now is tied for first in hitting into double play in the SEC. And that's what would drive me nuts, right? Is you've got bases loaded, 1 out, you're down game 3 at Kentucky, and you head into a double play. It just is, that's the demoralizing stuff in those games, right? You have opportunities. You leave at least 11 guys on base against the Wildcats in game 3. But Arkansas is also the third best team in the SEC at taking walks. They've got the 3rd most. They're the 5th lowest strikeouts in the SEC, right? They're not hitting a lot of home runs. That's the biggest number right now, only 64 home runs compared to Tennessee's 126. But we always know that Tennessee can hit home runs. They always have been. Arkansas has usually been a home run hitting team too. They only have 64 this year, so they're not hitting as many home runs. You hope that things turn around. I'm not hitting the panic button quite yet.
Okay. That sounds pretty good. I think something to add to that, and we talked about it before the show too, and I think even Dave mentioned it today in our little breakout session after the Swatters Club, but somebody said on social media to all those haters of Nate Thompson out there, and they were like, hey, I am a high school hitting coach, and sometimes my frustration is I have really, really talented hitters, but I'm not in the box with them. I'm not over their shoulder, right? And going, hey, hit at this, don't, do this. You're not in the box with them. So sometimes you can have a guy that's great in practice, does everything you say, and then in a game situation, you're going, why aren't you doing what I told you to do?
Right.
But you're not in the box with them, and that's what Dave Van Horn kind of talked about with Ty Wilmsmeyer, where he said, yeah, I wish he wasn't doing some of the things that he was doing. And you can see the frustration. You can see the anger there, and where it's like, guys, we're not out there with them. Like,
and there might be some critics at home who are like, well, good coaching means those guys are doing what you're coaching them to do. Sure. But I also can kind of counter that argument with, if you're where you are right now as an Arkansas offense and you're just pressing and you're almost trying too hard, it's like playing golf. If you're tense, I'm not a great golfer, but if you're tense, you're worried about, okay, I got to get my backswing straight, and I got to do this, and I got to follow through, and I got to keep my head down, and I got to get my knees bent, and like, you overthink stuff. And so you could be playing baseball your entire life, but you're going to overthink everything. Okay, am I loose? Am I good? Am I stand? Like, wiggle your feet. I used to wiggle my fingers when I would be in the box. I would wiggle my fingers to remind, that was my relax.
Relax, yeah.
Relax, because if my fingers are wiggled, I'm relaxed. I'm not tense. I'm not gripping the bat on a death grip. I'm relaxed. So sometimes it's easy to resort back to some bad habits when you're kind of in that like pressed panic. I just want to get a hit. I'm tired of striking out. I'm tired of grounding out to second base, whatever it may be. So players eventually will get out of that. You just got to let them kind of go through it.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, right? The hope is that they get out of that and then get hot when they need to, right? Like you said, you can get hot in the postseason. None of this matters.
Guys, we will come back and we will have an open, honest conversation if the offense continues to look like this in 3 weeks.
All right, we'll bring you on. That Ask Mike. I'm sure we'll get some questions for you
that week.
Phone a friend. We're going to have you on that week. At HogFan11 on YouTube Ask. And this is one we've had quite a few times come up. Question for Ask Mike: how did Cal and John Tyson become friends in the first place? I want to know this story too. I really do.
I asked a few people and they didn't know. I asked my husband, who they just got done doing that John Tyson interview, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how'd they meet?" Because I thought, and he was like, "That'd have been a good question to ask." And I was like, "Man, shoot, you're right." But what I've heard and what I think is possible, and they could have met prior to this, or this might not have anything to do with it, but if I had to guess, my best guess is when Frank Broyles was trying to hire John Calipari in 2007 after he fired Stan Heath, that he reached out to Cal. He wanted to hire Cal then. I mean, Cal talked about that in his opening press conference and welcome ceremony. But he didn't want to leave Memphis yet. He didn't want to leave those guys yet. And, of course, that was that Derrick Rose team that went to the national championship game. And Eventually, all those games were vacated, but, that's neither here nor there. It's very irrelevant. But he didn't leave. But he could have left in 2007 and come to Arkansas. Frank wanted him to come. And maybe during that process, he had some of the bigger boosters maybe reach out to Cal or meet with Cal at some point, and their paths crossed, because Frank was really good friends with Johnny Tyson. And so maybe at some point during that process, they encountered each other and then hit it off, and that friendship blossomed from then. They both like to play golf, so maybe there's a golf background there. But again, I don't know. That would be my best guess if I was a betting lady, which I'm not, because I should have bet on Mystic Dan and I didn't.
Should have bet on Mystic Dan.
She won money. I did not. I should have done it.
Hey, I credit, there's an Uber driver in Arkansas that's like, I'm a horse guy. And I was like, oh, great. And he goes, Mystic Dan. I was like, all right, I'll take it. I did. I straight up just took it because I said, all right, that's good.
I didn't mean to digress there, but that is, I don't know. It is a guess. It is a pure guess.
I really want to ask Coach Cal that. Maybe when we get to sit down with him, we'll be able to ask Coach Cal that himself.
How did you meet Johnny?
I think it's a great. There's got to be a great story there. So we'll hopefully we'll have a better answer for you, Hog Fan 11, in the future when we ask that question.
Yeah.
Mousetown asks, has Cal's recruiting run out of steam? Is he going to play 6 guys next season? What does Courtney's dad say about this? Can Mousetown be positive?
No, he's not. And also too, quite frankly, yes. And they probably win a lot of games if they just play 6 players. The 6 that they got right now are pretty dang good.
Well, they need some more guards.
But now they have 7.
Some more guards.
Now they have 7. You'd win some games though with the roster you got right now.
I think so. I think you could definitely put a roster together and get him out there. I think he needs to do a little bit more recruiting.
You'd save on that per diem.
You would.
Per diem budget on the road.
You would. What does my dad say about this? Well, Alyssa, my dad says exactly what every other coach and former player and anyone you ask in college basketball, let Cal work. I'm assuming Mousetown asked this question before Adu Thero committed today. That's another domino.
There you go.
Let him work. I don't know how to say this in a different way. But every college coach you ask, and it doesn't matter if Coach Cal is recruiting against them, right? If you ask Coach Muss, he's recruiting against Coach Muss right now, or Rick Barnes at Tennessee, they will tell you the same thing. He is the best when it comes to recruiting. Taking a look at those rankings as they stand right now on 24/7 Sports, Arkansas, after the addition of Thiero, ranking number 3 overall in the class of 2024. Number 6 in the composite rankings, and number 1 in the transfer rankings. And we talked to, Josh Pastner, who was on staff with him at Memphis. And he said he would take his time. I mean, that's just because it's the Coach Cal brand. He can go out there, get the players that he wants. And now with the addition of NIL, things may just take a little bit more time.
And I was going to ask you this question because I saw over the weekend, I believe, my days get mixed up now, but that USC and Eric Musselman added another one, and someone had said there are 11 newcomers to this USC. That includes, I believe, 9 transfers, and then the 2 incoming freshmen, which are Jalen Shelley and Isaiah Elohim, who were supposed to come to Arkansas, followed Muss to USC. You see tweets like that. Arkansas fans see tweets like that. Muss has already got 11 newcomers. He's got this. He's building these right. Like, he's always worked really, really fast and honestly really loud. And so, as a complete opposite to that is what we're seeing kind of with Cal. And also, too, Cal's got to make sure that he can accommodate all these guys.
Absolutely.
And I mean an NIL money. He got to make sure that he's not over-promising and under-delivering. And so I think maybe, again, to tell people to be patient, Muss is loud. You see what he's doing. He's already got 11 new players on this roster with whoever hasn't left at USC. And Arkansas's over here they're – Muss is the hare, and Calipari is the tortoise, and the tortoise is eventually going to win this race.
That's what I think
you just got to get there to the end first.
Yeah, and you have to be patient. And you're right, they're totally different recruiting styles. Muss is a guy, and you can go back to, again, this is not me saying this is other coaches who have worked with Coach Cal saying this, that Muss is a guy that put so many things out there that just says, yep, we've contacted this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. He may make 40 contacts, in 2 weeks. There's a joke that was out there last year of like a guy's hit the portal and he already has a call from Coach Muss. That's because he would hit everybody. Coach Cal doesn't need to be like that. Coach Cal is much more selective. He may put out there 20 contacts, 15. But that's because he knows he's going to get a majority of those guys. He knows that he's going to get 10 out of the 15. And that's because you hired someone that's not only good at recruiting, is also a brand in itself. 1.5 million followers on social media. I mean, that's amazing.
We got to remind people, too, he hasn't brought in anyone on campus who hasn't committed yet.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that that's something to take into consideration. Garrison, one. There's one.
Oh, yeah, Brandon Garrison.
There was one.
Yeah,
there was one. But you take that into consideration, too, where, the trip to Arkansas is almost like, to seal the deal, to kind of close that deal out, to kind of be like, he only brings players that he really, 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 really wants to say yes. And so far, he's only missed out on one.
Yeah, and I think that was an interesting one to even talk about because he was putting things out there for him and Adu, and you're like, wait, those are two bigs. Wait, who's gonna get playing? If you're putting,
you've already got Big Z on campus.
You've already got Big Z, and I kind of went. I mean, and everybody really did. It's not just me. They were asking some questions there. They're like, he's going after both of these guys. He's not going after one or the other more. I think he was hedging his bets there that he was going to get at least one of those guys.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what happened there when Adu committed. You saw Garrett, he said, no, I'm not going to commit here. So I think that's what you saw with that situation is kind of two of the same player. I don't know what you would have done if you got both of them, to be totally honest. Maybe Cal had a backup plan.
I don't know. You'd call DVH and be like, you got 4 catchers. What do I do with 3 bigs?
Exactly. There you go. More bigs, the better, in my opinion. Jeff S. Goff on Twitter asked, now that the regular season is over, what's been the impact of DJ Gaso on the softball staff as the hitting coach?
Well, there you go. I'm going to let you take over on this one because she's our stats girl. She crunched our numbers, and we were trying to talk to her earlier, and she yelled at us because she was trying to do stats. So.
Well, because I was trying to look at 4 or 5 things at once from last year to this year. I was looking at individual stats, and y'all were trying to talk to me during that.
It was our fault. We take full responsibility for distracting her and trying to talk to her while she was trying to do math.
I was.
Mathing is hard.
So I'm going to just give you the stats here because I think that's important just to take a look at, and we can talk about those right after I give them to the people here.
Give the people what they want.
Arkansas's batting average has improved from last year to this one. Overall, they were batting .277 last year. They're now batting .284. There's still some season left to go, so
we'll see.
Could it raise that number a little bit some more? Also, there have been individuals, and this is where I think you see the impact of DJ Gaso the most, is individually. And that's what we've talked to when we talked to Bree Ellis before the season started. That's what she had said. She was like, look, he has helped me so much because I was doing this weird kick thing with my swing. And he was like, why are we doing that? And he took that away, and now she's improved. Because you look at Bree Ellis, just from her, she's improved her swing immensely. She was batting .275 last year at Auburn, now .329 at Arkansas.
Yeah.
You even look at other ones. Hannah Gamble is one that we've talked to as well. You and I both interviewed her before the season started. She said that's what he came here to do. He was like, look, I want you to go back to sophomore Hannah Gamble, that one that was winning awards, that one that was doing so well, All-American status. That's the Hannah Gamble I want you to go back to. So let's look at your swing there and see how we can make it the same. What are you doing differently? And she has done better. She was batting .200 last year in SEC play. Now she's batting .230.
Yeah.
So there's an improvement. I bet she would like that to be better, but it's still an improvement, guys. We're talking about improvement. Reagan Johnson batting .333 in SEC play last year. This year she's batting .350. So individually, he has improved some players hitting. Now, there are some other players, and you and I both looked at this, that haven't improved. But it's circumstantial, and I kind of want you to take the reins there because it's circumstantial, right? With certain batters and what they're doing from last year to this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And obviously we look too, because I was curious with these numbers, because some of them are significant. Well, are they Are they added into the lineup as a pinch hitter? Are we DHing? What's our role? A lot of roles have changed. And so I think you look at the Kaminson twins specifically, who are batting in the 100s right now, who both played really, really well a season ago. And it's not that they're not playing well. I think their roles have adjusted. And that could possibly be impacting their batting averages. I also think, too, you look at kind of the pitching. Has the pitching overall in the SEC gotten a little bit better? I think 1 year is really, really hard to determine, okay, good hire, bad hire. No one's trying to determine that. Like if things are bad or if things are good. And you look at what he did at Utah, and it was such a big jump. That looks more impressive than a little bitty jump at Arkansas, but Arkansas didn't need to jump as big as Utah did, right? Yeah. So I think that's important too. And I've had so many conversations as I've been doing some of these Olympic stories with Olympians and their training and getting better and plateauing. And I was talking to a swimmer where it was like it took 5 years to increase their time by 10 seconds. Can you imagine? 5 years in 10 seconds. And I know swimming is completely different from softball. I'm not trying to compare and contrast. I was a terrible swimmer. I was a pretty good softball player. But at the same time, that's the kind of dedication and tweaking. And as an athlete, the 200 to 230, that's big.
That's a significant jump.
That doesn't feel big, but it's big.
It is.
And so those little things you sometimes have to look to. And you hope that maybe in 5 years, if we look back and look at some numbers, that they paint a better picture that's a little bit easier to understand and say, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, I don't really know. I mean, we don't know what people are going through. You know what I mean? Like,
we're not in practice, so
we're not in practice. We don't know what people are going through. But so far, it seems it's not getting worse.
No, and that's the thing. That's what I want to make a point of. It's like, it is getting better. While it may not be the jump that you want to see in year one, I think as long as it's not improving, then you have a case to say he has been impacting. And also, you look at how he is as a coach as well, and I think the girls really resonate with him just as a coach, right? And that's what they talked about, not only the impact that he has had specifically as their hitting coach, but what he has done for them in increasing their confidence. I mean, he came in and said, he was like, the attitude we want to have is we're Arkansas. Like, this is a very, very good softball team. And we even asked him, where could they be, in 5 years, 10 years? And he goes, up with the ranks of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I truly believe that they are so close. What Courtney Deifel has done, they are right there to being at the College World Series every year.
Yeah, and I think, if we want to take the softball conversation a step further, it's why the Ole Miss series was so frustrating and why dropping that series to the worst team in the league heading into the SEC tournament, just like you did last season, has got to be frustrating. And so, this is an Arkansas team that has a lot of potential, that was winning convincingly and against really, really talented SEC teams since that Mississippi State series. You won every single one until you lost this past weekend. And it's not what you want heading into the SEC tournament. So how does this softball team turn it around? Well, we want to talk about the offense. They've got to get it going again. You talk about a baseball slump. Well, softball's kind of in it right now, too. Softball's got to turn some things around because that is what hurt them in the regionals last year. Why they lost to Oregon twice is because they just couldn't hit. They couldn't keep up because Oregon caught fire offensively. And poor Shanice Dells, there was only so much she could do, but they were on fire. And you got to give your pitchers that run support in the postseason. And so in order for them to be like your Oklahomas, like your Alabamas and your Floridas and your Florida States who have competed for national titles within the last 10 years, you got to be able to hit right now.
Absolutely.
So we're about to see what happens in the SEC tournament because, all of these stats are good. And they're a good measuring stick at what happened in year one, but he's got to get these girls to hit.
Absolutely.
Like Thursday.
Like on Thursday.
On Thursday.
They play in the SEC
on
tournament.
Thursday. And when they hopefully host a regional and come back here.
And to go to that point, I think there's something to be said about can you change the mindset, right? Mindset. Can you get them in the mindset of not having what happened last year happen this year? can you flip it? Because that's what they've done really all season long. You look at how many SEC ranked series that they went and won that game 1, lost game 2, then came back and won game 3. And their backs were against the wall.
Yes.
And it was like a mindset thing where they were like, okay, we're not going to lose game 3.
And we talked to Kennedy Miller, and she was like, we don't really know why that's happening. It just is. So, and you know, that's great that it was, but you still got to find other ways to win. You still got to win because there's not a whole lot of games left if you don't.
Absolutely. And you don't want what happened last year to happen this year.
No, I don't think anybody wants that to happen again.
No, absolutely not. We're going to finish on this one.
Okay.
Hog Redneck on Hogville asks, could you please ask Mousetown to say bad things about our baseball team? He was nice to them last week, and look what happened. Listen, we cannot ask Mousetown to ask certain things.
No, this is some Mike Irwin reverse psychology stuff. Look, Mousetown is who he is, and he's never going to change. And if you believe in those kind of jinxes and superstitions, it's going to be a really hard sports life for you, because I don't think Mousetown had anything to do with why they weren't hitting at Kentucky.
Well, listen, if that logic is true, though, Alyssa, he was a little bit mean to Coach Cal here. You know, he asked this question.
Yeah, maybe.
And then they got Anthera committed.
You know what? You know what? I don't know. I would say if Arkansas beats Mississippi State, but the thing is they should. So I don't know.
Well, but he hasn't said anything mean about the baseball team this week. It was
I'm saying.
directed about at basketball. So hopefully there's no jinx of baseball this week. But
look,
he's jinxed basketball over here because now they're getting
Mousetown
commits.
Mousetown needs to go get himself a pedicure and chill out.
Listen, Mousetown does need to chill out. We have said this multiple times on the show.
Yeah.
People get mad, either hate him or they love him.
Yeah.
They're like, he's telling the truth, or they hate him. They think he's too negative.
Yeah. He needs to take a vacation.
I mean, there are a lot of people asking for him to be on the show. So we
got to find Mousetown.
We've got to find Mousetown and see if he wants to be on the show. He has said no when Mike has asked him, but we will see if we can get Mousetown to come on.
That is a lofty goal. Best of luck to that.
We're trying.
Best of luck.
This is Ask Mike, Alyssa. We can make stuff happen over here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me.
This was fun.
Alyssa.
Hopefully nobody's too mad in the comments.
And if you are, we don't want to see you. We see you, but we don't want to see you, okay? You can just take that someplace else. Thank you so much, Alyssa. That's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next Monday. Will Mike be back?
He is back.
He is back.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. Mike is back.
Couldn't let him go 2 Mondays in a row. We ain't having that.
With us 2 Mondays, you never know what you're going to get. Well, we'll see you next Monday with Mike Irwin to answer your questions.